Frank, what were you up to last week?
I was in Las Vegas doing family Thanksgiving.
Family stuff.
Ooh.
Everything go okay over there?
Yeah, they ordered some food from the Cracker Barrel. We had a Cracker Barrel Thanksgiving.
CBT.
That actually kind of rules.
Yeah.
In case anyone wasn't familiar, Frank's family is the Caesar family that runs Caesar's Palace.
That's true.
Right, which is why we actually went to the Bacchanal buffet at the Caesar's Palace as well. That was the second Thanksgiving. And,
oh, my God.
Then I came home and did a third Thanksgiving because I actually, as I think Tim, and I don't remember if Brandon was there, I think just Tim was, can attest to, I enjoy roasting turkey.
Oh, yeah.
And of course you did not partake, but you did visually partake in my beautiful bird.
I witnessed it.
And I take great pride in properly roasting a turkey. And so I came home to do that and I messed it up. Oh. It's really dry.
Oh, that's too bad. What's the odds on a turkey just coming out dry?
Well, it depends on how you cook. I mean, like for me, it's all about monitoring the temp, right? Like monitor the temperature and it's not going to happen. The problem that I had is that I was using a probe thermometer that you just place in the thing and you put, the actual thing on the outside of the oven while it's reading it. And for those who have done this, you may have come to the same conclusion that I have, which is don't do that because the temperatures just seem to vary completely, and I never get it in the perfect spot. So when it hit the perfect temp of 150 in the deepest part of the breast, I went, great, it's done. And then I started poking other places, and it was like 190.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, I had one of those plungy thermometers, but I eventually threw it away because it was just unreliable.
You just got to go instant read. You just got to poke a bunch of places. Yeah.
It's just, and it could just be because we so equate the act of eating a turkey with the festivities of end of year holidays here in the United States of America, that people, the methods for cooking kind of fall off of the public pre-conscious and enter like Google it territory for most people at every instance. But it just sounds, every time I hear someone speaking about cooking a turkey, it sounds to me like it's just a little too much trouble to eat regularly. Is that why people don't eat it regularly? Well,
the problem is that it's very large.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's an oven filler.
If you put the entire thing in and cook it at the exact same time, something's going to get dry while something gets right. So, the way that I do it, it's just kind of a miraculous, it's proof of God's existence, I would say, that if you de-spine a bird and then butterfly it and lay it flat, the white meat and the dark meat hit their ideal temperature at the same time.
That makes sense. It's thermodynamics, Carl.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think if God was real, he wouldn't have put spines in turkeys in the first place.
That's right. Or they would be easier to cut out because there's some joints in there that are really annoying.
The turkeys would be looking like metal slimes in Dragon Quest.
That's Galactic Dancin'. This is episode 315 of Insert Credit, a weekly collection of intelligent people with a vested interest in video games kept in check by a horrible buzzer. I'm Alex Jaffe, and my earliest abandoned ambition was to become a train.
Oh, shoot.
So, did you say galactic dancing or skulactic dancing? I couldn't quite tell.
Galactic in this scenario.
Okay, all right. My name is Frank Cifaldi, and my earliest abandoned ambition, was that it?
Yeah.
When asked as a child, like a small child, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said a scientist, and I had no idea what that meant. And I no longer have any interest in being a scientist. I just thought you were
of scientist.
Thought you wore a lab coat and walked around. I'm not at all a scientist. What are you talking about? I'm not remotely a scientist, Jeffrey.
I mean, if you really think about it, aren't you?
Especially if you really think about it, that's when he's not.
The more you think about it, the less scientific I become.
Yeah, actually, Frank, the more you think about it, and the more you extract reasons you're not a scientist, and the more you write those down and itemize them and list them,
the more you become a scientist.
The more you.
I'm now a data scientist. Yeah.
The more you prove yourself not a scientist, the more of a scientist you become. Socrates is spinning in his grave right now.
Freaking guy.
Put a turbine on him.
But, for fun, like a dog chasing his tail, not in anger.
And not on a rotisserie like a roast bird. Yeah.
Socrates is like, finally somebody gets it because he's hearing this.
He's just waiting for you to come along.
I'm Tim Rogers. My earliest abandoned ambition. Well, when I was 5 years old, as a big fan of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I'd seen Steven Spielberg wearing a cool baseball cap with the Raiders of the Lost Ark logo on it on television, I thought, that's what I want to be. I want to be a movie director so I can wear a cool Raiders of the Lost Ark baseball cap. And my mom said, you can't make a movie. And I was like, man. But you know what? There's still, I think, actually a chance that I could. So
there's still time.
I did sort of abandon it for a while. But, I do own really nice cameras now. You all are looking at the podcast hosts here. I don't even have any of my lights on. That's just how nice the camera is. So,
I mean, I hate to do to you what I just did to Frank, but you do kind of make movies.
You kind of make movies, Tim.
I guess so, yeah. Well, there's a couple coming up that might change your mind. Well,
okay.
See how you feel after the next 6 quote-unquote movies. Then we'll talk. We'll revisit this conversation.
Well, I'm Brandon Sheffield. My earliest thwarted ambition, this is a lot more similar to Jaffe's. When people asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I said a unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
And then I achieved it by wearing a cape that that my parents and I made together.
You just turned into a unicorn?
That made me a unicorn in my view at that time.
Yeah.
And so
Jaffe could have become a train through similar brain tricks, probably.
He should have.
I suppose I did become a train for a Halloween costume.
See, there you go.
But
I think I did become a train. You wanted to be you wanted your face on like a tank engine.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You wanted to be Thomas the Tank Engine-ified.
Finally, someone gets it. Yes.
So
that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, that's what I pictured when you said that. So
thank you.
I'm glad I was right.
I have been misunderstood on this point my entire life.
Yeah, it's like you likely either enjoyed watching or had seen out of the corner of your eye Thomas the Tank Engine and thought, is that something a person can become? Did this guy go to college for that? Right?
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. So what's the major in college? You're like 4 years old thinking about college, which is a red flag, deal breaker.
Yeah. My parents were like, you could become a train engineer. And I'm like, nah.
And you immediately stood up and stomped to the ground and said, no, you fool.
So here's the advantage of hippie parents. We had a book on unicorns. And the unicorns were like all different shapes and sizes of mythical creature. So to become a unicorn was not unachievable in my view, because they were all these different things. They had a horn, but they were different in body type and presentation, and sometimes they were humanoid. And so I was able to achieve that goal. Though I call it thwarted because later I don't really think that I was a unicorn. But it's close enough for me.
Later, you learned the whole thing was conspicuous. The whole endeavor was Santa Claus-esque. Your parents likely did not try to trick you into believing in Santa Claus, did they?
They did not.
Yeah, but then they did, something that, on balance is maybe almost as bad. I don't know.
They didn't try to trick me into thinking Santa Claus existed, but they did present some presents from Santa because that was fun. That makes
sense. Yeah, it's funny.
That's how they did it. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any children. I don't know if you guys knew this.
Didn't know that.
I don't have any children. I mean, I have one.
Little baby.
She's looking at me. And she's a little tiny 6-pound baby. She's trying, no matter how much we feed her, she just won't get any bigger. She's underweight. I don't have any children, but if I did, I wouldn't do the Santa Claus thing. I want them to know I'm paying for this stuff,
Yeah.
I want them to learn the value of my dollar. Right? That's a reference to how throughout my entire childhood, my mom was always yelling the dollar value of household items. like don't you drink that grape juice on my $2,000 sofa?
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, first of all, $2,000 sofa back in 1993 or so.
Yeah, wow.
That's a lot. And also, they overpaid. And when they built an IKEA in our town, and we were like, we should go to IKEA. My mom's like, you're not going to IKEA. That's too expensive. We could just barely afford this $2,000 sofa. And I was like, I don't think you know what IKEA is, Mom. Yeah. And she's like, she just thought it was like some luxuriously expensive place. She went to some place called like Big Boy, Baby Boys Discount Furniture Hut Shack Warehouse or whatever.
Emporium.
Hut Shack Warehouse Emporium. And, low prices.
Hut Shack, baby.
Everything must go. And it's like the lowest prices of the season. I'm giving them away. It's like $2,000 sofa. It looks like it was found in the goddamn Craigslist
sale.
dumpster.
I got it on sale.
Yeah. Oh, God. The old, getting it on sale.
I've got 6 questions for you this week.
Okay, let's do it.
We've got to eat 79-cent frozen pizzas for a couple of months because of the $2,000 sofa that was really ugly. Anyway, yeah.
What's still easier for you to do in real life than it is to do in a video game?
I'm going to go ahead and say it. It is slightly easier to ride the New York subway to 42nd Street than it is to play the hardest routes of the oldest Densha De Go games. That's a multi-layered joke for a couple people who think they get it.
I'm peeling them back.
Yeah, but it is slightly easier. That's my answer. Slightly easier.
My answer is very simple: navigating a 3D space.
True.
Walking around is way easier in real life, and having a sense of direction and stand in the place where you are and think about the places you've been. I can't remember the lyrics.
Stand in the place where you live.
I feel fine.
And then face north.
Yeah, I can do that in real life. I can follow REM's instructions way easier in real life than in a video game. In a 3D video game, I'm pretty good at 2D though.
So there's a really good, I know they're all hated now, but Top Gear, the show Top Gear, there's a very good Top Gear episode where the Jeremy Clarkson drives a car in real life around the famous corkscrew turn at Laguna Seca. And then he also plays it on Gran Turismo with simulator level control implements and determines that his time is just impossibly better in Gran Turismo than in real life, by huge margins. And he's talking about why. And he's like, it's the fear of death in real life. And it's I always thought that was such a great little TV moment, very inspirational to the sort of work that I continue to do to this day. He's just it's the fear of death. You don't have that in the video game. There's no fear. He called it a computer game, though. You don't have the fear of death in the computer game, but in real life you do. So for navigating a normal 3D space in real life, it's sort of the opposite of fear of death. You have just the presence of actually being there, right?
Well, and there's no fear of getting lost,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So in a video game, you get lost because you're just you're not as viscerally required to pay attention in a video game as you are in real life. If that makes sense.
I think I told this on here before, but my dad likes cowboys and such like. So I sat him down in front of Red Dead Redemption, the first one. Yeah. I don't know, whenever that came out 15 years ago.
Red Dead Redemption, the first one.
The first one.
Do you mean actually Red Dead Revolver for PlayStation?
No. I didn't mean the real
I know
first
what you mean. I know what you mean.
I'm at the first Redemption, and because we talk about Red Dead Redemption 2 on here so much, I figured I'd caveat it, which unfortunately made it more confusing. So anyway, but I gave him the controller.
No, I understood what you meant.
And
this was before you'd seen everything.
It tore his brain in half trying to move the camera at the same time. This was his first experience with navigating a 3D world in this way. With 2 control inputs that were required, and watching someone try to figure. We all had that, of course, but I hadn't seen someone do that for the first time in quite a while because I'm used to people that know about video games playing stuff.
It's real fun to see.
So was he just looking at the ground, walking kind of thing? My memory of the first time.
He was looking at, my actual dad was looking at the controller. The screen, he was looking at the controller the whole time. The screen, he was sort of moving around and not moving the camera as much. He would move, and then he would move the camera a bunch to try to get it in the right spot, and then he would move again.
Got it.
Yeah, so it was sort of like he was doing them separately. He couldn't do them simultaneously.
What would be the best is if he was doing that and going, wow, it's like being a cowboy. Like,
it's just like
actually
being
work.
a cowboy.
I feel like I'm out on the range.
Looking at my hands. Cowboys looking at their hands. I did this. I did an extensive experiment on my Twitch channel during my weekly streams last year where I just made Mimsy and made her. She enjoyed it. She played through The Last of Us, which I chose because it felt like the perfect intersection of all AAA video games of the last 15 years. It was a very scientific process through which I selected. Still not a scientist, but I selected it, and she'd never played a AAA game. She'd never played a game that required 2 analog sticks and shooting, and she got all the way through it, which is a feat in itself. It took her 30-some hours. But I have really, really good, extensive, scientifically valuable footage of a person playing all the way through a AAA video game, having never used a right analog stick before. And I can say with absolute certainty that I know these things are often discussed as the tool of pros and whatnot, but I really think the paddles on the back of the controller are the way to get noobs to play video games. I feel like they would not be looking at the controller as much if they knew their thumbs are always supposed to be on the 2 analog sticks. Right is camera, left is movement, and then the buttons are each assigned to a different finger on the back. Way more intuitive than 4 little buttons on the front of the controller, in my opinion, which I have.
We're going to talk about that a little bit more later.
I find it more intuitive. I find it easier to parry 15 consecutive hits from Chun-Li's kicks in real life than I do in a video game. That's how.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I think that's time. The 3 of you discover a storage container filled with thousands of factory-sealed copies of a fairly underwhelming NES game.
That's good news for us.
How do you use it to scam the speculative market?
Okay.
Okay. You should lead this one.
They are factory sealed, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to assume, since it's all the same game, we're talking like shipping carton, right?
Yeah.
Like they're in their 6-packs in their cardboard. So first of all, ground rule, nobody knows about this. Like this is some Fight Club stuff, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
We are swearing an oath.
Only the 3 of you
nobody knows about this, because the goal collectively from the 3 of us is to milk as much money from collectors as possible, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. First thing to know is that a grading service, people who put them under acrylic and put a grade on them, they publish their population. So if we were to grade them all, the collector would know how many are out there. Actually, that might not be true of. I can't remember. I remember people were mad at WADA because they didn't do that, but I think they might now, or they will. Let's just assume that they do. So if we're grading them, it's 1 at a time, right?
Or maybe 5. Well,
there's suddenly a population of 5. It's like, oh, someone found a stash.
That's true. Okay.
Right. So it's like, so the first thing we do is we find the worst one and we grade it. Okay. So we grade the worst one, we sell it. We might, if we need immediate income, because we're talking like how many are we talking, Jeffy?
What's a reasonable amount?
You said thousands, didn't you, Jeffy? That's too many.
I'm thinking my storage unit here in Manhattan, which is not very big, could probably fit let's just say 500 copies.
That sounds
Does that sound right?
We are destroying 450 of them immediately.
Oh, yeah, because 500 is 500 would be a ridiculously conspicuous number.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, but
either destroying or just like forgetting we ever saw them.
Yeah. I have a question, Frank. Here, if we do this across years, does it make sense to hold on to an additional 50 to be like in 10 years? Wow, we found 50 more.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the idea is that it's the rest of them we forget about, right? And eventually we swing back around and we swing back around to when there's a new class of collector. Right? Yeah. Because all the old ones have them now. So the new ones don't. Now, I'm going to say this happened. Brandon, maybe you got one of these. I don't remember. The Good store in Vegas. What's it called? The Game World? Retro City Games. Retro City Games.
Retro City, that's right. Sorry.
They got like hundreds of copies of Impossible Mission on the NES sealed in their shipping cartons. And they were like blowing them out for $10. And, they're kind of starting to come back around to maybe 50, but they didn't do it right. We're going to do it right here. So, okay, so we've got the worst one graded, and we're going to sell that. We might additionally sell one shipping box because I don't think people are going to open that. Right. So like if we want some immediate income, because, you know, we all would. Right. We all want some money right now.
Yeah. Give us the money.
Of course.
Yeah, I know what I'd do with it.
We're going to Facebook group post in the secret, not so secret, high-end game collectors group on Facebook. One word, folks. This carton, and we're gonna sell that for, I don't know, $5,000 plus probably. Depends on the game. I don't know which game it is. Jaffe didn't.
It doesn't really matter what game it is. You can make a. I mean, how opposed are you to committing actual fraud here, though?
Okay, what do you have in mind for the fraud?
Well, I mean.
I can't answer that unless I know the nature of the fraud.
If one of us, for example, happens to have a lot of YouTube subscribers,
right, yeah,
and often make YouTube videos, we could sit on the games while I make a video about this. Actually, this is one of the best NES games ever made.
Okay.
And then people like wish I could find a copy of it. And then there's a segment where I'm like, I tracked down a new in-box copy and I found it at a thrift store.
You know what? This is great
because that's actual fraud.
I can't tell if this goes against the nature of the question though, because my understanding of the nature of the question was milking like the high end collectors.
Yes, exactly.
Not maximizing.
Yeah, I don't want you to bilk people with souls.
Well, the bilking doesn't matter. I actually think we would.
It's all a bilk.
I think we could make more money targeting not the high end collectors. Like, I think Tim's thing, without fraud, I think Tim could be like, and we found them and they're $100 each, you know, like and we have 500 of them, you know, like I actually think that would actually maximize the money.
Yeah. I mean, I can even think of an ethical, non-fraudulent way to do it, which is I'll be like, I played this game. I like it. If I do like it, here's what I like about it. We got 500 copies that are brand new, sealed, perfect condition. We'll let them all go for $100. And then as this YouTube video continues to get millions of views over the course of the next 20 years, the value of those investments will go up. Right. And
guess who held on to some, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
like you do a sequel video 2 years later. We found more.
We got some more, buddies.
And then in that video, you could also visit some people who still have their copy sealed.
So that's maximum value. I agree with that, but maximum bilking the collectors is grade and sell about one a year, and try to slip them into things like heritage auctions.
Now, if we want to do fraud, I'm just going to take this one step further. We can open one up, take the label off, put a white label on it that says prototype. And sell that.
Yeah, except we're committed to fraud now because all of those go through me. Those go through me. Yeah. And I'm the one who says yes or no.
You're setting your whole organization up for crime.
You're jeopardizing your entire reputation on this.
Yeah. So
luckily, I'm still fine
on selling 500 copies of a not really well known or well appreciated video game.
Brandon, that's actually a really terrible idea. Because a sealed copy of a video game is worth way more than a prototype of the same game.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that like this is another thing we could do. It's
if we just want to commit fraud and lose money, sure.
Well, I mean, the prototype could build hype, though.
Do we want to get in the most amount of trouble for the least?
No, I mean the prototype would be in addition. This it doesn't like take away.
So wait,
from
Jaffe, was part of the question? Is this a released video game?
It is a released video game.
Okay. I thought it was a. I mean, yeah, that's still fine. That's still fine, obviously. But it's if it were like a video game that were packaged and not released or for some reason.
Fun fact that happened. There's a game called Cheetah Men 2 on the NES.
Right.
Yeah,
that game was never sold, but was manufactured. And I know someone who was offered the entire several pallets of them for 10 cents a unit and had to decline because it was too much money at the time. And they are now worth like $1,000.
I was thinking about Cheetah Men 2 when I wrote this question.
Nice.
I actually have 100 copies of Cheetah Men 2 in my storage unit.
Excellent.
Nice.
So
let's commit some fraud.
Next question. What will be the title of Nintendo's last video game?
Nintendo. The end.
I don't think so.
The Legend of Zelda. I keep saying Turds of the Castle would be what it's called. It's the third Breath of the Wild game. Because it was gas of the wild, then it was liquid of the kingdom, so it has to be solid of the building, right? Wild is a concept, kingdom is a place, then it has to be a building. So it's Turds of the Castle is going to be the third Zelda Breath of the Wild game, and everyone is going to immediately just reject it. Not because of the turds, but because they think
because it has to be a solid from the body.
A solid from the body. Yeah. That's that's my joke. That's what I've been saying for about a year as I play through Zelda games on my Twitch channel. It could be
stones of the castle, but like a reference to
kidney
gallstones.
Yeah, I think turds of the castle. Turds of the castle. People are going to play it and they're going to be like, it's going to be perfect, by the way. It's going to fix everything that anyone could have ever possibly complained about from Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. They're just going to give up on the getting struck by lightning if you have a metal item equipped, right? And that alone will make it the best game they've ever made. And then also there will be a pair of gloves you can buy in a store for 50 rupees that will let you climb while it's raining. And then that alone will be enough to make it an 11 out of 10. In my opinion, but as all of the people who gave Zelda Breath of the Wild a 10 out of 10 in 2017 and gave Tears of the Kingdom a 10 out of 10 in 2023 because they have such strong memories of playing a Zelda game 6 years ago that they gave a 10 out of 10 when they were in their mid to late 20s. When the third one of these games comes out, all of those critics who gave Breath of the Wild a 10 out of 10 in 2017 are going to be in their 40s. They're going to be old people, and they're going to begin so many sentences with actually, and they're gonna focus on the negatives. The game's gonna be perfect. It's gonna be the best Zelda game of all time, and Turds of the Castle. And everyone's gonna just turn their back on it and be like, you know what? Actually, in hindsight, Tears of the Kingdom kind of sucks, and Breath of the Wild blows. So, because it's breath, it's blowing, right? And this new one, more like pile of turds, right?
Didn't have to walk far for that.
I don't know where people are publishing great game criticism at this point.
Oh no, well they've all been fired by this point. There's it's AIs.
Well, they had been hired. Wow.
It's AIs replicating the mind space of someone who was 26 years old in 2017.
Right, which is when which is when they stopped feeding because there was no more content to feed.
Right.
So Jeff, you said the last Nintendo game. Is that what you said?
Yes, this is the last one Nintendo puts out before they go bankrupt.
I'm saying this is the game that kills Nintendo.
The direction I'm going with this is quite often this means Nintendo has been on decline for a long time.
Yeah, I think we're going in the same direction.
And so quite often when that happens to a Japanese company, the last thing that they do is make an eroge, like a porn game.
Not where I was going. Great.
With their female characters.
Boy.
So often that is like the last ditch effort is that. And so it's going to be your Peach, your Daisy, your Bowsette.
Princess Peach teaches typing.
That's right.
Except it is wild.
It's wild. Yeah. And there's going to be, for that extra fan service, you're going to be able to date.
Princess Peach teaches piping.
No!
You're going to be able to date Miyamoto's wife.
Pregnant Princess Peach dies at dentist. Pregnant Princess Peach perishes at periodontist. That's the name of the game.
Okay, I didn't hear you, Brandon. You could be able to date who?
Miyamoto's wife.
Yeah, Shannon Miyamoto.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. And then it becomes a game dev story with her.
I saw someone in the goddarn insert credit podcast thread on the Discord say that mentioning Shigeru Miyamoto's wife is one of their favorite running insert credit podcast bits.
Great.
I hear that again, I'm going to quit because I've been talking about Shigeru Miyamoto's wife has been a primary character. I have a voice for her and everything on my live streams for like 2 years. Okay? That's mine. Don't attribute that to this.
All right, I got to do mine, Jeffy. Even
do yours, Frank, please.
A question or something. Okay, so I'm making two assumptions here. I think Nintendo has at least one more gimmicky control input in them.
Okay,
that is like the main feature of a console.
It's a water pick.
I also think we're talking the last game.
Yes.
I don't think the last game technically published is one that a lot of effort will be put into. I think it's something they will have had around that they've laid off most of their staff at this point, and they just kind of need to like throw a title screen on it and get it out to get some revenue in while they close shop, right? So I believe that their next gimmicky thing will be something that you chew on. So it's like a controller. It's a very pressure sensitive from both sides controller. that you could, like, it's meant for squeezing, but it can go in your mouth, right? And by this point, there is sort of a mouth guard attachment or something that keeps it
just
clean.
It's shaped like a lemon.
Yes, sure. Yeah. And their last game will just be this digital only $5, basically a prototype that they made for this thing, but they like polished it. So it's, the
Wii Chew.
Well, I mean, by this point they've done some chewing, but it's like a chewing with friends or something, right? Maybe it's like I know. Maybe it's kind of a Lady and the Tramp kind of thing, right? Like maybe it's for couples and you're both chewing the same lemon.
There's going to be a video of someone playing it with their dog.
I mean, I honestly think that this kind of sounds like this game is just going to be called Pregnant Princess Peach Perishes at Periodontist. You have to chew on a thing, and then you have to use the Wii Vitality sensor as well, because they're going to release that finally. Can you imagine what levels of god darn creative depravity they would have to sink to just regurgitate, to exhume the idea of the Wii Vitality sensor? To just bring that back in like 2027. They're just like, we got this thing for the USB port on your Nintendo Switch that reads your blood oxygen level while you play the video games.
Do you know how many people own Fitbits, dude? I actually think it still could work.
I mean, well, yeah, I think it could work, but I think we've reached a saturation point of. I mean, I'm wearing an Apple Watch Ultra right here, like, which has best in class oxygen sensors on it, right? So it's like, I mean, I don't have to be sold on the idea of the thing, but trying to integrate that into a video game is just kind of a very funny thought experiment too.
It's actually, we're past that point too, right? Because it's I could see Nintendo having innovated it and people like Apple and Fitbit or whatever having like made it a daily app, right? But I don't think the opposite's going to happen. Yeah.
It kind of comes up as something that they basically threatened back in the early 2000s. The balance board was a better idea, and even that kind of I don't use this word lightly. Even that kind of stunk as a thing. I know it's sold. I know Wii Fit was a thing, but the Vitality sensor was a real pipe dream. Pretty sure Miyamoto's wife was the one who shot that down ultimately. Like, Shiggy, you got to give that up, honey. Like, is what she said. And then he was like, okay. And he's like, I don't know how to do this. Can you imagine playing a Mario game? No. Playing Zelda Turds of the Castle with the Vitality sensor on while you're playing, and then suddenly you start hearing the shrill, repeated beeping of a Zelda game when you're low on health.
You should put it into a controller so you have to stick your fingers in while you play, so it's like naturally.
It's like it's on the back of the controller, like scuff paddles, basically. So you just hear the shrill, repeated beeping, and then you look at your hearts, and you're like, still got 19 hearts left here. What's the shrill, repeated beeping? And then you just die. Like in real life, because you're actually dying for real, and the game was trying to tell you to check your
real heart.
So I really think Pregnant Princess Peach Perishes at Periodontist is the game we're looking for here. Because you're going to have the Vitality sensor, you're going to be chewing on a thing, and the end of the game, it's kind of a Synecdoche, New York situation where you just have to die to finish the game.
Nice.
And the Vitality sensor will know.
You must die along with Nintendo. That's the final.
Yeah, it's like we're taking you with us.
Yeah, because I've been in the passenger seat of their Buick for 30 some years now, right? So
yeah,
I might as well just see what that brick wall down there is all about, you know? And then, there's going to be speed runs on YouTube within minutes of the game's release where people manage to just like people with the Wim Hof method or whatever. I'm referencing too many things this episode. I thought we were supposed to make it easier on the editor this time. It's you're just like where people have perfected the ability to like slow their heart rate down so that, because if you yank the sensor off, the game immediately goes, put the sensor back on, idiot. You're not seeing the ending of this game.
You're not fooling nobody.
Yeah, because they intend the final imagery to be like the last thing a human sees in their life, which is Pregnant Princess Peach perishing at Periodontist. And then it's like born, the baby is like the new Mario, the character that would have been the next.
Oh, the baby comes to term.
Well, no, you don't get to see the baby. That's the tragedy of the end of a company, is that all of the creative endeavors they never got to indulge.
Oh, this is too sad.
Yeah, you have to imagine Party Baby.
Imagine the Party Baby.
Thanks for bringing it back, Frank. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Pregnant Princess Peach
perishes at periodontist.
Pregnant Princess Peach perishes at periodontist. Pregnant Princess Peach perishes at periodontist.
Everyone at home, please remember that Miyamoto's wife is a Frasier character, not a Cheers character. Welcome back to Insert Credit. This week's dirtbag question comes from SpencerGifs. How did he get on this show? I'll tell you how he got on the show. He gave a little bit of money to patreon.com/insertcredit, where for just $1 a month, you can get access to the forum that lets you submit questions to this show. You also get bonus episodes that are sometimes about us talking about how old we're getting. Sometimes they're about Brandon walking around Japan. You never know until you try. Catch the magic, catch the wisdom, catch the flavor. SpencerGifs asks...
This is one of my favorite ones of those you've done so far. Sorry. That's just the way you did this one was extra good.
I just want to ask, Jaffe, did you write all that down and were you reading that off of a screen?
No, improvised.
No, that's what I was.
It was like the most I've been living in New York one yet.
I was going to say that if you're able to do that off the top of your head, consider dabbling in the pre-writing of some stuff, because you'd be surprised by how tasty it can get. Just saying. I'm saying you might have the gift.
Chops.
Give it a shot.
I might have the chops.
Give it a shot.
Speaking of gifts, what's Spencer Gift want to know?
Thank you, Frank. SpencerGifs asks, has the video game controller been finalized?
Nope.
No.
I mean the you can't chew it yet.
Right.
That's right.
And there's no vitality sensor.
Yeah.
There isn't even a vitality sensor baked into the back of the controller like a scuff paddle. In all seriousness, the fact that as an old person, as a person who becomes is increasingly becoming more of an old person literally every day. They say you become more conservative as you get older, and the word conservative means something different for literally everybody. You become more appreciative of the stuff that you've known. I'm leaning closer and closer toward believing in the evident finalization of the video game controller, but I don't think that can happen until first-party pack-in controllers are released with paddles. And the PlayStation Vita came close, having the back panel on the screen, but that wasn't like remappable to face buttons in all situations. I think when the first-party controller comes with paddles on the back, then we're talking. When it's no longer just a thing for the elite or pro controllers. All of the pro controllers, all of the elite controllers have paddles. We need an official DualShock that has 4 paddles on the back. And then I can say, I think we're, as far as my life of playing video games has prepared me to say, that would be basically the final controller I would ever really consider. If that makes sense.
I think that might be true. I'm going to rephrase and say the exact same thing you're saying, but not necessarily like in a form that we know yet. I think the final form will be essentially what you were saying earlier, that there's no more finger travel to go button to button. Like buttons are just fingers and that's it. So I'm with you. I think the final form of a controller is one where you are no longer switching buttons with the same finger. Your hands are just resting neutrally, and you're just twitching them to control what you need.
I interviewed for a video I did back when I was working at Kotaku.com. It's a famous AI-powered website about Mexican food. It's a famous AI-powered website. They're generated on the cloud these days, I believe. I did an interview with the CEO of Scuff, who invented the paddle for video game controller purposes. Licensing out their little technology to Microsoft for their elite controllers, etc., etc. Said CEO of Scuff's name is Duncan Ironmonger, which is an incredible name. Incredible. That's real. It's not his Dungeons and Dragons character from when he was a teenager that he decided to become as an adult and illegally change his name to he's not Vin Diesel, Duncan Ironmonger. And he used the phrase, because I was like, hey man, I love you guys as controllers. I love your stuff. I'm a big fan of all your stuff. I actually have their new controller. I'm looking right at it. The one that's for PC that lets me put macros on the little buttons, and it has the best paddles yet. And they based the paddles in the back of the controllers on F1 steering wheels, right? Obviously, because there's multiple paddles in the back of an F1 steering wheel. Those guys have those steering wheels are crazy, technologically fancy. But he was like, he kept using this phrase, and I loved it. And I loved this phrase that he kept using. He's like, I was looking at controllers and I was playing so many video games. And first of all, Duncan Ironmonger's ripped as heck and he's British as heck, right? So he ripped and British, huge and tall. He's like, I was playing so many games and I just thought somebody really needs to just extend the usage of the hands. We need to extend the usage of the hands. It's just not being extended. And I'm like, whoa, what a phrase, dude. So that's why you can activate paddles on the SCUF controller with just the side of your middle finger. You can do both paddles on each side, or you can use your ring finger using your pinky. It's just they're getting more and more ergonomic with every release that they make. And their most recent one on the Envision Pro controller, I think, are the most ergonomic ones yet, which is saying something. Their PS5 controller, they're pretty ergonomic on there too, but it's maybe that's the final thing to work out is what are the ideal paddle ergonomics. But yeah.
I'd just like to say I tried searching for Duncan Ironmonger and I found out he's not even the most famous person named Duncan Ironmonger.
Oh, yeah.
There's another one in Australia who's this household economist. And the Wikipedia article is about that guy.
We should get that guy on the show. That should be our next guy.
I want to answer this question also because I have a different answer, which is that I don't think the video game controller is finalized. And I will say that because right now we've got home game controllers and we've got phones and we've got VR controllers. VR is, it's going to be what it is, but a controller on a phone is a virtual controller, but your phone becomes the input device. And I think that as long as we have new kinds of inputs required, that we can't fully converge. We can say that the home console controller will remain static perhaps at some point, but I think that the general concept of a game controller is going to continue to evolve as the interfaces and the ways that we interact with games keep changing little bits and pieces.
I've seen enough kids playing Fortnite on phones or whatever, with just the touch screen. I've seen enough people in the New York subway playing Call of Duty on their phones with which is weird. But I mean, the controller, as far as the home video game consoles go, as far as playing a game with a controller on a PC goes, I feel like, well, the one thing they can't really seem to decide on is what's the analog stick arrangement, right?
Yeah.
Is it DualShock style or Xbox style, right? That's the one thing that doesn't seem to get agreed upon.
The reason that I don't want to discount the phone thing is that, if you go to the south of India, nobody's touched a regular video game controller, and the Call of Duty that they have played is the one that's on their Android phone, and that is the one that they will remember forever. That's what Call of Duty is.
I mean, I guess I'm too much a stickler for the
stick.
Yeah.
Too much a stickler for the stick. I'm too much a stickler for being like, when Activision promotes a Call of Duty with a TV commercial, or there's a professional event where the best players in the world are playing, what are they using, right?
Sure. But the commercials,
I understand there's a range of experiences.
In South America might not be the same one. They might just be showing the mobile app.
That's time.
Sure. In summary, it's all about the paddles, Carl.
All about the paddles.
In my opinion.
There's a sort of recognized meta around award-seeking films, where it's easier to inflate a film's acclaim if it sets itself up as the sort of film that wins important awards. A period piece, or a heavy drama.
Or a story about movies.
Or a story about movies, yes.
The protagonist is a writer. Yeah. The protagonist is a person you might have seen on TV before.
Exactly.
The role is challenging, and Leonardo DiCaprio will make you cry.
And
yes,
scream.
Video games do have it. It is the Annapurna video games. It is that's what it is.
I'll be honest, this started as what's the A24 of video games, and I thought that's too obvious.
Okay. First of all, A24 is cool. I think A24 is cool. I think their movie that won Best Picture last year wasn't that good. I'm sorry. I don't think it was that good.
Yeah, A24's got some good stuff.
But they made The Witch, and was when I first became aware of them. They made The Lighthouse, Under the Skin. They've made some really good. Some of their movies. I watched
The Lighthouse in the theater. If you, can
I watched The Lighthouse in the theater as well. Some of their stuff is just like it's they're in the early days of A24, and I couldn't figure out what's the business model of these people. Is it just to make movies that I like? Right? Because that's a dubious prospect, right? Yeah. I don't really think there's anybody exactly doing that in video games. There are some people who think they're doing it, and they have the same first initial. So that's there's people who think they're doing that.
Yeah. Well, I feel like they do win awards because they are the important games in scare quotes that are about real issues but then you got Florence, which, no offense to anybody that likes or worked on Florence, but Florence was a game that won awards and people loved, which was about a breakup. And as a person who's been alive for a while, it very much read like someone who had been through one breakup and then wrote about the experience and turned that into a video game that was a very, very simple video game with a very, very simple concepts. But maybe people really need super simple concepts in order to be able to engage with complicated material. So it's like, maybe that's not the wrong thing to do. It just, I don't know.
I think on the long view, all will be revealed that it was the wrong thing. I can understand on the short term thinking maybe it's not. I don't have time to go into that, though.
In the short term, maybe it isn't, because maybe it gets some of those capital G gamers to kind of look at it. And maybe it'll pull them further into media literacy or something. But at the same time, I would rather have people be a little more challenging and figure that out.
So has nobody here played through The Last of Us Part 2 except me?
I have not.
Has anybody here played?
Not. No.
Okay. Never mind. never mind. So The Last of Us Part 2, if I can speak very generally about it, it's a game that's very overrated and very underrated at the same time.
Incorrectly rated, you might say?
Yeah. It's incorrectly rated in 360 different directions and forming a complete circle. It's a very, very interesting piece of entertainment. I think it's the devil, and I also think it's the Jesus. There's a lot of stuff that it makes me feel weird to imagine being trapped working on games like that for the next 20 years or so, that those developers are going to be just in the foxhole working on games that have that tone. How did we get from Crash Bandicoot to this is what they must be at. The veterans at the studio must be asking every day, while they add a little more grit, grease, and grime to the face of a mushroom mutant monster.
Just drop a piano on it.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's how there you go. And then it's instant jokes. But The Last of Us Part 2 is the sort of game that I think a lot of knee-jerk reactors might call like an Oscar bait video game, even though it didn't win Game of the Year, right? So it's there's only one Game of the Year award anymore, and it's at the Game Awards.
Did that happen already?
Let's just get that out of the... No, December 7th, dude.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay.
Are the fungus zombies in The Last of Us a Mario thing? Are they talking about Mario when they do that? Is that like, hey, dude, what if the mushrooms killed you?
No, it's
commentary.
It's just based on some quote unquote science stuff.
Okay,
scientists like Frank.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to full circle that.
They actually they consulted Frank.
You went for the low jab.
It
could have been a little more clever than that, to be honest.
They consulted Frank about that.
Yeah, that's a little better. That's like mid jab. Yeah,
there we go.
The closest to an A24 game that I would say is I recently played. Do you guys know these Plague Tale games?
Yeah, I just bought the first one on Steam sale for like $8.
Did you play any of it yet?
I haven't played it yet, no.
Oh, well, you know what? I don't want to be prescriptive here, but I think you're going to have a good time.
I think so, too. I just want to see some bad rats, just waves of bad rats.
It's a simple story. So watching my girlfriend play through The Last of Us for 30 some hours as her first dual analog stick game. And then, she does a little independent research on what sort of video game she wants to play next. She's like, ooh, this game looks neat.
It's got rats.
And I immediately go, I bet she's talking about Plague Tale. And then I'm like, yeah. Because it's like, it's a simple game is what it is. But it has the budget and presentation of a complicated game.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like I will get it in an hour and then decide if I want to keep playing or not. And both options will be valid.
I'm gonna say I'm putting it to a slightly weighted coin toward the yes. You're probably gonna just play the whole thing because it's.
Well, here's what you're not understanding. I've played 2 Yakuza games, and I also bought all of the Yakuza games during the same.
Oh, sure.
The same sale. I was choking because it was same Steam sale. That was a really hard thing to get out. Yeah.
Look up this Plague Tale game on the old howlongtobeat.com and take a look at the link there.
All right.
And you might find yourself pleasantly surprised. But certainly the Oscar bait video game is not the Sony massive open world game. The Spider-Mans, the Ghost of Tsushimas, the Horizons, it's certainly not those. But it really feels like Oscar bait in video games has become conflated with massive mega budget first party exclusive, right? Like God of War or The Last of Us, even though the past couple winners have been slightly darker horses like Sekiro and Elden Ring, almost as though the Game Awards in a certain light are a little more exciting than the Oscars if something like Elden Ring can win.
Most games are just the gravitas ventures of games. You ever see those gravitas ventures trailers? They come up, and then as soon as you see that, you're like, oh god, because you know that the VO is going to be overdubbed in such a poor way that it sounds cheap. Like even the trailer is telling you, guess what? We had an idea. Here's half of it. It's rough. Also, I think Jaffe, you said it's time. That's time very quietly, and I don't know that anyone picked up on it.
Well, I didn't hear that at all. Nice.
Oh, yeah, I said that a while ago.
He said it a couple minutes ago.
I heard it, but I was just strutting, so hey.
Well, I was looking up the time to completion for Plague Tale Innocence and gasping.
How's it look?
And how delightful it looks.
Right?
No spoilers.
Oh, my God. And it's just, some of those How Long to Beat estimates are kind of right. So... and that one I think is pretty right. I found it quite correct. So,
all right.
And if you've never played the Alan Wake games, those are also very short.
Yeah, I think we might have discussed last time that my next game was set to be Alan Wake 2, and then we started it up and went, oh Lord, the 3080 is not good enough for this.
Oh man, yeah.
All right. I've got one more question before we go to the lightning round.
Question.
Okay.
Jean-Michel Basquiat once said that art is how we decorate space and music is how we decorate time. What do we decorate with video games?
What's left? Isn't that everything?
Yeah, there's no more stuff.
More specific.
Space and time.
Video games are the convergence of space and time.
Yeah.
No, there's no space in video games.
Unless it's Happy Home Designer, then you're just decorating a space the whole time.
Boom.
Video games are how we decorate the 16 by 9 rectangle mounted on our living room wall.
I guess I would say that video games being experiential, because the real story is the fun stuff that you as the player do. So maybe it's how we decorate a space and time in our lives. Like we decorate our experience to a certain degree, but it's very limited. That sounds a little more grandiose than
I really like the idea of saying the art is how we decorate space, music is how we decorate time, and video games are how we decorate life. That's just the sort of thing that a gamer who doesn't understand.
Oh, that's on a t-shirt in an 8-bit Mario font. There's like coins and mushrooms around it.
That is going to be, mark my words, Jeff Keighley is going to say exactly those words at the beginning of the Game Awards next week.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I don't say this god darn lightly, but I'm god darn stoked to hear it. I'm stoked.
Yeah.
I don't normally use this kind of language, but I'm stoked.
I want to go right to our lightning round. We're playing one of my favorite games, GameFAQ&As. This is the game where I go to GameFAQs, a website that still exists for the moment, where every single video game has its own board of questions people can ask and the community can answer. All of them are headed as a single sentence that ends in a question mark, that there are more details when you click on them usually, but I ignore those. And I call these questions for this podcast so that we can answer them.
This isn't as good as the last one.
This is not as good. This is incredibly labored.
This is we call it the sophomore slump. Look.
What are the questions, Jaffe? Let's go.
All right. This week we're playing Doom. And our first question.
Wait, which Doom? Which Doom? 93 or 2016?
I took a mix.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Interesting.
Let's assume it's all the same game, though.
Kill me, Carl. Let's go.
Here's our first question. Is there something in doing wrong?
Something in doing wrong?
Yeah, that was the question.
Usually good profits from selling those games. Yeah,
usually quite a bit of money.
Yeah,
as we just discovered with our palette of found games. Are the demons in the Doom universe aliens?
No.
I've definitely seen people ask this question. I also believe that the answer is no.
I believe the answer is who cares?
I believe the answer is shoot them, Carl.
Yeah.
Is there is there a hidden message in a message?
Oh.
Well, it depends on your belief in
laggardly sort
writer's intent versus reader's interpretation.
On the message.
Probably a really good term for that.
Yeah, read between the lines.
How do I get past level 2?
Get past level 2. Go for it, bro.
Get to level 3.
To get to the other side. That doesn't even make sense.
Same way you got past level 1, but a little bit more.
How do I drop weapons?
You ever watch that commercial with
get a bunch of butter on your hands before you pick them up?
I forget if it was Taco Bell or what, but there was that cop who was like having a bad day and he kept falling down and getting his pain stick stuck in this door jam. You remember this one?
You're talking about Most Cops?
Yeah, it was a very funny commercial, and anyway, I would say if you can figure out what I'm talking about, watch that commercial and you'll find out how you can drop weapons.
All right. How old do I have to be to buy Doom at GameStop?
42.
Yeah, around 42.
Yeah. Yep.
Why is episode 4 so difficult?
Wait, hold on. If you had to be 18 years old to buy Doom at GameStop in 1994, which is around when you would have been able to buy it at a store, then you would have had to have been born in 1976.
Yeah, so I guess a little older.
So you would have to be, you have to be 47 years old right now to have bought the original Doom at a GameStop.
And to answer the other question, it's because Hayden Christian Anderson, he just hadn't come into his own as an actor yet.
Yeah, I was also going there, so thank you.
Yeah. Babbage's became GameStop in 1999, though, so you couldn't have bought Doom at GameStop.
The spirit of Babbage's was GameStop. Come on,
the spirit of Babbage's.
We still call them.
You could also call Funko GameStop.
Or EB Games.
You can also call Software Etc. GameStop.
Babbage's. I don't know.
Why is episode 4 so difficult?
I already did it, Jaffe. While you were looking at the internet.
Episode 4 was made.
Come on.
While they had already they were making Doom 2 at the same time. You Nimrod, it's easy to look at the math. It came out the same time as Doom 2. Episode 4 is so difficult because it's for goddarn freaks. And it contains a level literally called Perfect Hatred, which is John Romero's greatest creation of all time. One of the best video game levels ever made, Perfect Hatred. If you've never played Perfect Hatred, play Perfect Hatred. Why is it so difficult? Because it is, I think, it's different. It's not the same game. It's a new game. It's showing you what the power of level design truly is. That's why it's so difficult, you child.
It's like its own Kaizo hack.
Jaffe, later you can go back and listen to my answer when you hear the podcast.
Oh, I heard.
I will. I'm looking forward to it, Brandon, but I know that Frank and Tim didn't get to answer it.
That's incorrect. Frank said his answer was the same as mine, and Tim answered it just now.
Okay.
My answer was the correct canonical answer.
I'll eat that crow. Here's our last one. I know I specified at the beginning that this was a mix of new Doom and old Doom questions, but I want to say this one was specifically from the original Doom board. Is there a double barrel shotgun in this game?
Blasted.
Yeah.
And that's the show.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
It's a good question. Does anyone have any recommendations they'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I want to plug really quick the charity that I run, the Video Game History Foundation. We're in the middle of our winter fundraiser, so if you'd like to give, we're donation matching thanks to our illustrious sponsors, gamehistory.org/donate. But money or not, regardless, we're trying to get everyone we can on our email list because the internet's imploding, and we want to capture an audience while we still can. So we are through the entire month of December. This is crazy, but we're doing it. We're doing a countdown calendar where every day in your inbox, I'm sending you a cool little video game history treat. So go to gamehistory.org and right below the logo, sign up for our email list, and I will be emailing you incessantly throughout December. And then when you click through to the content, upselling you on donating and possibly even joining the Patreon.
I'm doing that right now.
Thank you. Get on that email list, buddy.
Gotta get those treats.
I have a recommendation that has nothing to do with me, though. I'm going to post this link in our chat so we can see it. This is the game that I discovered on Steam. So it's a game called Small Saga.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the little mouse with a knife.
Yeah, it's a mouse with a switchblade, JRPG.
I'm looking at that.
It is... So I downloaded the free demo on Steam, and I had a great time. And then after the demo was over, slight callback to a few minutes ago in the show, I looked up the length of this game and gasped and bought it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
7-hour, clean, content-heavy JRPG with really, really good graphics.
That's neat graphics.
Yeah, I like that little Swiss Army mouse.
Yeah, I have not finished it. I'm 2 hours into the apparent 7-hour game, and I'm delighted.
7 hours is tasty.
7 hours of just pure tasty content. There's no grinding because, it's not something where enemies respawn.
They're not trying to disincentivize you from renting the game.
Right. Yeah, you can rent Small Saga right now. Beat it in a weekend. And
they're not. Yeah,
go play with your friends outside. Those are my 2 recommendations.
Oh, yes.
All right, I got some. There's a new Demon School trailer. You can go check it out. Please go take a look. It's a battle mechanics trailer. It's very, very, very short, but quite good, I think. We also announced our release date. Not our release date, our release window, which is 2024 now. Sorry.
What is the window?
It's Q2 2024.
Cool. Q2!
And then this is not a recommendation. Just I watched The Mask for the first time since it came out.
Somebody stop me.
Okay,
is that what you said?
The Mask.
The Mask.
The Mask. I said it. I said it multiple times during watching it. And here's just a little something I was surprised by. Yes, it is a generally misogynist movie where the women aren't people. But you know what it isn't? For a movie made in 1994, it's not homophobic.
Whoa.
Nobody says the F word. Nobody makes fun of a guy wearing a dress.
I don't know.
Nobody implies that someone is being too familiar with another man. There's no homophobia in the movie that I could perceive.
That's interesting.
That is such a surprise for a popular blockbuster comedy from 1994. That was all people did.
They must have filmed it and cut it for time or something.
Maybe they cut it out. Yeah,
it's probably on the DVD.
Right.
Yeah,
it's in the extras.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like too much of a stickler here, but I think there's probably a lot of movies from 1994 that don't contain the F word. I think there's probably more than a couple, at least 5 or 6.
I mean, there are several, of course, but it was really rare in comedies to not have
blockbuster comedy of the season.
If you watch the
some of those blockbuster comedies,
Bill and Ted use the homophobic F word as a catchphrase.
Yeah.
They do.
It's
oh my God, really? I don't. Wow.
Yeah, really. They use it in the tradition of Michael Scott from The Office, not in the homophobic way, but in the bad at sports way. So they use it as you suck, but they say it together in unison in a certain cadence as a catchphrase. It's It reminds one, and I'm just going to add to this recommendation-wise, it reminds one that though things are difficult out here in the world, we have made some social progress.
Yeah.
There are some things that we have done that have made the world and interacting with people a little better, and it's nice that some of that stuff has happened. So, it's not all doom and gloom. That's all I got.
Yeah.
But the last round was all doom and doom. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh God!
Thanks,
you gotta love that Doom, bro. You gotta love Doom.
Gotta love that.
Or
Doom.
you're not a gamer. if you
Tim,
don't.
do you have a last message for our listeners before my sign off?
Oh, well, I was going to say...
Not a Nintendo style last message. Where
I just want to say, number one, if you follow Goblin Bunker on twitch.tv, twitch.tv/Goblin Bunker, which is the official Twitch channel of the Action Button Discord community, they're going to be doing a special presentation on Saturday, December 9th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Pacific. The Goblin Bunker Public Access, it's called. Something they've been doing it every year now.
Yep.
And this is the third annual one, which means that only now is it possible to say it's annual. Got to do it 3 years in a row.
3.
So unless they flub it and it fails to go live, then they're going to be able to say they have an annual event. It's a charity fundraiser. Check it out.
And you know who's got a segment in there?
Who?
Me and Esper.
Wahoo!
Yeah, so
just like we did in the very first one.
So whenever that part is,
you can just turn it
off.
Yeah,
and then turn it back on when it's over, so that
15 minutes
Daisuke
later.
Uchiha, who is running the show, so that he will notice.
He'll notice that our segment's the worst, and nobody should bring us back.
Yeah, he'll see that because you can actually see in the graph. You get an email after a Twitch stream that actually shows you the graph of when the viewers drop off. You want to know when the viewers drop off of my streams?
When you start playing the game?
About 10 minutes into the video game. Yeah. I talk for about an hour or an hour and a half before the game.
Oh, wow.
And then, and people really love that. I've got thousands of people in there, right? And then it drops to the high hundreds when I get into the video game.
Wow.
People say they don't want to be spoiled for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh,
you can just say you don't want to watch a guy play a video game. It's fine. I wouldn't either. But it's the only...
My uncle can't understand Twitch. Why should you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're looking at like this camera angle and it's just me talking like this... Oh, yeah, I went to the grocery store today. I stepped on a rat that was as big as a football. Right? Like, you can understand why someone would want to watch that. So,
of course.
Why someone would want to pay money to watch it.
Much better than a video game.
Yeah, it's much better. I stepped on a rat that was roughly the size of an NFL football. I'm not talking a Nerf ball-sized rat. That's the sort of thing I'll say for hours at a time.
That's only on your stream, but anybody could buy Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, any idiot could buy Tears of the Kingdom, and because I'm one such idiot. I'm one such idiot, Carl. Brand, did you play that Tears of the Kingdom? Did you touch that game yet?
I need to consult with Nintendo about getting a functioning Switch, unfortunately, first before I can do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you and everybody else, man. That
no,
thing,
no, mine's got.
I know what you mean.
Ghosts. It's got real ghosts in it. Like it phantom button presses, turns itself on and off. It's like
that's not good.
It's all the way out there, so I can't use it for nothing.
Carl. They're going to release a new Switch next year. It's coming. You heard it here first.
I've got some recommendations. I would like to recommend that you rate and review this show wherever and however you can. I read all of them and they cheer me up great. You can also support us on patreon.com/insertcredit. Give us money, cheers us up even more. You can become a patron to submit your own questions, listen to monthly bonus episodes, and more. If you'd like to sponsor our show with an advertisement or a personal message, you could do that by contacting us at show@insertcredit.com. I'll handle all of that. These guys have no clue. You could also join our community at forums.insertcredit.com or find videos of these episodes on youtube.com/insertcreditshow. This episode is edited by Esper Quinn with original music by Kurt Feldman. I'm Alex Jaffe.
I'm Frank Cifaldi.
I'm Tim Rogers.
I'm Brandon Sheffield.
And let's fight to computer.
Okay, Brandon, what was your question for me?
I just want to know if you were aware of the funny thing that we did last episode, and I think the answer is probably not. When you weren't here, we inserted an "I'm Frank Cifaldi" at the beginning and at the end,
and just pretended we were talking over you the entire.
As though Tim and I were talking over you the whole time.
Excellent.
And then we revealed it after the little outro thing. But we got a lot of people. A lot of people were like, "What happened to Frank?"
And then they get to the end and they're like, oh, you got me.
It's because they heard your intro and then they're like, where's Frank? And then they hear you in the outro.
Where'd the intro come from?
Just from an old prior episode.
Oh, we took a piece of you going, I'm Frank Cifaldi and from a previous episode.
Yeah.
And then we go right into Tim's answer for the
like you cut me off.
Cut you off.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
but I come back at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end to say I'm Frank Cifaldi.
Wow.
And then people
great.
were like, what? But then at the end we reveal the trick and then
so there's been like 2 special episodes of like fake me situations.
Yes.
Let me be Frank.